Hey everybody, I'm Tim Hockett. For some reason, there is a popular conversation heating up about whether Jesus was a liberal. I've read several news stories in the past couple of weeks about ministers who've been challenged by their congregants or their parishioners who object to sermons that seem to point to the soft side of Jesus. Uh, Namely, that the notions of forgiveness and divine grace are somehow reflective of a liberal or even a woke agenda. And so I thought I'd try to briefly address the issue. Let me state first that the polarization that we're experiencing in America has bled into all facets of society. It's widely known that evangelicals have tended to move strongly to the right on the political spectrum toward the conservative end. This took on a full head of steam back in the days of Jerry Falwell and his movement called the Moral Majority. Over time, various Christian denominations began to take sides, conservatives holding to their strong beliefs in the literal translation or understanding of the Bible, and progressives holding to an understanding that called for cultural contextualization of Scripture. The former took a pretty hard line on what I call the bedroom sins and also social issues such as abortion, divorce, homosexuality. The latter movement placed more emphasis on social justice, alleviating poverty, and even inclusion. Well, at the risk of being superficial, I'm going to share some thoughts that I hope you'll find helpful. Why listen to me? I don't know. I spent much of my life studying the Bible, teaching its precepts in its original languages, Greek and Hebrew. I graduated from a Christian college in the States, 4-year degree. I attended the Hebrew University in Jerusalem for 4 years, and I completed 3 more years of graduate study in ancient Near Eastern religions back here in the States. So 11 years of college. But I beg you, as you listen, please do your own study to verify or refute what I'm about to say. First, let me assert that to impose one's contemporary political views or filters on biblical literature is a surefire way to miss the proverbial boat. Irrespective of your politics, the teachings throughout the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament, should be allowed to speak its truth. Otherwise, we're not allowing it to inspire us. Now on to Jesus. I can confidently assert that Jesus was not very conservative in any contemporary sense of the word. He was not interested in preserving the old ways and was certainly not a champion of either the accumulation or the preservation of wealth. On the contrary, he blessed the poor. He cautioned against riches and the greed that they produce. And as to religious traditions and structure, Jesus said, no one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, otherwise the patch pulls away, and the new from the old, and a worse tear results. And no one puts new wine into old wine skins, otherwise the wine will burst the skins, and the wine is lost, and the skins as well. But one puts new wine into a fresh wineskin. That's in Mark chapter 2. He said this on the occasion of not fasting in keeping with local customs. And further, Jesus did not embrace anything like free market capitalism. He taught people to live day to day. I encourage you to read the famous Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5 through 7. I find it interesting that when Jesus speaks to his disciples near the end of his life, he tells them that divine judgment will be based not on doctrinal purity or orthodoxy, but rather on each person's demonstration of compassion. To paraphrase it, he said, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was in prison, I was sick, and you gave me something to eat and to drink. You came and you visited me in my hour of need. You can read all about that in Matthew chapter 25. So was Jesus too soft? Well, when he was asked by a frustrated Peter, oh, how many times am I supposed to forgive somebody? 7 times? Jesus said, well, 70 times 7. He seemed to be indicating that we need to be very gracious above all else. An important indicator of his willingness to accept others is found in the numerous stories wherein his closest followers seemingly scolded Jesus because he dared to talk to outsiders and sinners. He had conversations with prostitutes, with Romans, even a Roman centurion. He talked with lepers, street children, tax collectors, and other so-called sinners. Replying to his detractors, he said, a physician doesn't come for healthy people. In my view, Jesus set a tone of loving kindness and refutation of his contemporary religious norms that the conservatives of his time could not accept, and for that he was killed. I find a nice answer about whether Jesus was a liberal or not in a very short parable or saying of his. To paraphrase, he says, don't presume to try to get the speck out of the eye of your friend when you have a big stick in your own eye. First take the stick out of your own eye, and then you can see clearly to get the speck or the eyelash out of your friend's eye. I remember working in a machine shop and being wowed by the close tolerances within which we had to work. A machinist there was really great, and they had to turn tools and parts to within thousandths of an inch. And I said to the machinist, wow, that's really a small measurement. And he said, yeah, until you get it in your eye. An eyelash is 3/1000ths of an inch. What's the takeaway? Focus on yourself first before you presume to judge others. You want to be strict? You want to be conservative? Be strict and conservative with yourself. With others, however, be generous. Jesus didn't lower the standard of good behavior. He just wanted people to be humble and gracious. We may not like it if we feel hot-headed and we want revenge, but when it's our turn for trial, we want the judge to be kind and compassionate. We want the jury to be kind and compassionate. I'll close with one last note. Once Jesus and his disciples were passing through a village, and the locals mistreated him terribly. So they had to leave town under threat. Well, his disciples were so angry, they asked Jesus to call down some sort of heavenly fire and burn up those people. You know what Jesus said? He said, I have another idea. Why don't we just go to the next town? Seems funny now. Later, James, Jesus' brother, wrote this: the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. Takeaway: be conservative with yourself, be liberal with others. Think about it. Thanks for watching. I'm Tim Hockett.